Hello everyone, this is Dr. Sabayan again, and I'm going to cover Chapter 8. We are in Lesson 8, and we're going to talk about user interface design. As you can see on my screen, these are a couple of objectives that we're going to attain to satisfy when it comes to, this chapter. And the focus of this chapter is about what are the different concepts when it comes to creating a very user-friendly design, and how are you always going to consider, or should I say, how are you going to consider to make your system to be interactive and to make it as simple as you can. Okay. Some of the other objectives: how to design an effective source documents, how to describe output and input controls and things like that. And I'm going to also touch modular design and prototyping techniques. Okay. Now the goal of system design: to build a system that is effective, reliable, and maintainable. So those are three powerful adjectives to be able to describe system design, right? So the purpose of system design is to create a physical model of the system that satisfies design requirements that you define during systems analysis phase. Okay? So we are on a system design phase already. Let me tell you this. So if you take a look at your book, we are going through one phase to the next. And on this chapter, we are officially on system design. Okay. Now, this lesson began with, discussion of user interface and human computer interaction concepts. And we're also going to talk about how to achieve a graphical user interface. But for you to be able to do that, take a look at the definition of the system. It has to be effective. That means that you need to be able to um, make it user friendly in a way that is functional. It supports business requirements, and you are actually meeting the user's needs. Reliable, that it handles input errors, hardware failures, or even human mistakes. So it's not just effective that it's functional, but you know that it's going to produce um, close to 100% as much as possible and be able to handle errors. Maintainable, if it's flexible, scalable, and easily modified. Over time, we all know that technology is just going forward. So advancement in technology has to be, I would say, always taken into consideration. That's why it has to be scalable enough, right? Scalable that it will be able to adjust when it comes to, certain revisions, right? And adaptability. So that's what it means. Will it succeed? So a couple of suggestions for successful design. You need to think like a user. I think the common mistake of being a programmer or a systems developer is you actually understand what you're doing, but on a user's perspective, there's a disconnect with that. So make sure that you provide input or receive output, and they can easily manipulate, the design that you are actually thinking about. Provide future needs, anticipate future needs, and provide flexibility. So that means you need to offer alternatives. Make sure that to manage data effectively, so validity and verification of data as soon as possible is very important. Okay. Now, moving forward, I'm going to be very quick with certain areas so we can really, define what do you mean by user interface. Okay. And the most straightforward or the simplest definition when it comes to um, user interface or effective user interface is you should be able to effectively manipulate it. How do you interact with a computer system, right? It has to have, it's two ways. There's a communication between the system, the computer itself, and the user. Okay? Now, moving forward, we're going to talk about human computer interaction. Our objective for this one is to create a user-friendly design that is easy to learn and use. Okay? How are you going to do that? By developing the 7 habits of successful interface designers. I am going to go through with all of those, and if you can see, you need to understand the business, right? What are the different business functions? How the system supports individual, departmental, and enterprise goals. If you do not have a solid foundation, then you would be lost, because for you to be able to create an effective interface, you should take a look into the consideration on looking at their goals. That's why you need to understand first what the business is all about. Okay, now you need to create a well-designed interface that enables rapid learning. Okay, nowadays everything is very easy to find. So when they search for something in the system that you're creating, you need to be able to transfer that learning, that information to your users. Think like a user, okay? Everybody will be a user at one point, right? You should be able to have a smooth flow when it comes to your design, and make it as user friendly, to the people who are going to manipulate your system. Nowadays, it's just so easy to navigate everything because of what? User friendliness, and we are on a point and click fashion, right? Let's face it, everything is very easy to navigate because of the point and click fashion. So if you can see on my screen, this is just an example of what? Um, Showing you some options when it comes to a student registration process or a student registration system. And every button in here, every command button leads to one window to the next. So if you can see, this is very straightforward. If you cannot find something, then definitely it doesn't satisfy the usability of that screen, right? What else? Invite feedback. So this one determines if the system features are being used as intended by observing and serving users. Inviting feedback, or feedback in general, is always going to um, fix errors in the future. Fix in a way that you will be able to evaluate what are the parts that you need to improve when it comes to your interface design, right? And lastly, you need to make sure that you document everything, right? This one covers all your sketches and storyboards that is being used to document your user interface. Okay. Now, some of the guidelines for user interface design: it has to create an interface that is easy to learn and use. Because of the point and click fashion, it allows all the users to correct errors very easily, right? Because of commands, system responses, it has to be quick, and it has to be consistent and predictable, right? What else? Enhance user productivity. Okay. Our goal every single day is to be productive, right? The same goes with, the design that you are creating. When determining the user interface, it has to be transparent. You need to create an interface that is very easy to learn and use, in a way that it will promote or provide shortcuts for experienced users, right? So that is something that you also need to consider. What else? Moving forward, it has to provide for what? Users with help and feedback. Otherwise, it won't be able to be improved, later down the road, right? So ensure that help is always available on demand. Okay. Um, what else? If you can see, I have an example right here showing some tasks and commands and functions organized into logical groups and sequences, on this example for a customer order tracking system, right? Create an attractive layout and design. If it's not the appropriate colors, let's face it, anything that is bright attracts attention. But you have to be very careful on that when it comes to systems design. It has to go very well with the goal, with the mission, vision, and the environment of the company that you are, that you are designing, right? If it's, let's say, a website for kids or for a preschool, makes sense that your design has to be very what? Has to be very attractive, that it's simple, very easy to navigate. The colors goes very well with the scheme itself. You have hyperlinks so that the users will be able to navigate some of related topics, okay? And there has to be what? A search button at the very top to make it a lot quicker for, any user for that. What else? Enhance the interface. Opening screen is very important. So in this point, you can use a switchboard to be able to use a command button for navigation. You need to have like a home screen so that everything falls into that category. Okay. I'm not going to go through all of this because those are just examples, but so far, um, those are the main points that I would like to really emphasize. Focus on data screen, data entry screen. Okay. This one provides for, data entry screen at any time without entering the current record. Restrict user access to screen location where data is entered. So this one, they will be able to view record, to add, to change, and, some sort of that. What else? These are just example when it comes to, providing various input masks for dates and phone numbers. Validation is also very important. Okay. Talking about validation rules, if it's about, let's say, a range check, then you need to have like a boundary, right? So that you can verify the data items that falls on a specific minimum and a maximum value. Date check is also important. Data type check, existing check, and all that. We have like, all of these categories, and you can take a look at some of the further discussion about it, but that is something that you need to consider. Okay. Reduce input volume. Do not input data that the user can retrieve from system files or calculate from another data. Do not input constant data. Use codes as they are shorter than the data that they represent. Okay. Garbage in, garbage out. We all know this one. The quality of the output is dependent on the quality of the input. You're going to have a garbage result if you did not consider the integrity of your input as well. Okay? Couple of things that are, examples when it comes to the output. So just go over. I think this is very simple to take a look at, but I was able to really emphasize the different steps, okay, when it comes to the design process, okay? Some of the issues that we would actually, I would say, encounter that discussion of other types of output such as some web-based information, audio output, some instant messaging, podcast, email. These are some of the other specialized forms that were mentioned in this chapter. If you can see, it mentioned about blogs and email, podcasts, as I've said, some specialized forms of output. And if you can see, because of the advancement of technology, then definitely those are the things that we really need to consider moving forward. So finally, security and control is actually being covered on this section. Output control includes some physical protection of data, control of unauthorized ports or devices that can extract data from the system. Okay, so some of the input controls include audit trails, encryption, password security. I could not emphasize that more. Data security, creation of access levels to limit the persons authorized to view or use data. So I hope you find this video helpful. I tried to make it not too lengthy because I know that you could find some of the other discussion from your book, but I was able to highlight the most important things when it comes to this chapter. So again, we are on phase 3. We are officially on a system design phase, okay? where when we talk about system design, just to somehow give you again like a purpose of that is for us to be able to create a physical model that satisfies the design requirements that we actually identified before from the systems analysis phase. So we focus on the user interface design for this chapter, and things like that, human computer interaction or HCI concepts. So please go over with those, I would say, portion in your book. Please do not forget to take a look at the mini case that you need to submit for this lesson. It's always inside graded items folder. And if you have any other concerns or question, please send me a message. Please use your Palm Beach State email when communicating. Okay? I will talk to you guys soon. You have a great day ahead.